Meet the next author and illustrator of the month, Chris vanallsburg. Chris was born in 1949. Chris grew up in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Here is a map of the United States that shows where Troy, New York is and where Grand Rapids, Michigan is. When he was growing up, he said he thought he was supposed to be athletic because that's what all the boys did. But what he really loved was to tell stories through pictures. Chris went to college at the University of Michigan. He lied his way into art school by telling the admission counselor that he was just such a good artist that they didn't make him take art classes in high school. The truth was, Chris just never signed up for art class in high school. Chris studied sculpture at the University of Michigan and received a degree in this. After college, Chris moved to Providence, Rhode Island. Here's a map of where Troy, New York is and where the itty-bitty state of Rhode Island is. When Chris was in Rhode Island, he met a woman and fell in love and got married. He also opened a sculpture studio, and he made money making sculptures. Chris ended up becoming a children's book illustrator when his wife and their good friend David McCauley, another famous children's book author and illustrator, convinced him to tell a wonderful story that wasn't boring. Chris didn't want to tell boring children's stories. He's written over 17 books. Chris wrote and illustrated his first book, The Garden of Abdul Ghazazi. It was published in 1979, and it actually received the Caldecott Honor Award, which is kind of like saying it was the second best picture book in that year. In 1981, Jumanji was published. This won the Caldecott Medal. It was the best book that year. Ben's Dream was published in 1982. The Wreck of the Zephyr and the Mysteries of Harris Burdick were also published in the next couple years. One of his most famous books, The Polar Express, was published in 1985. He again won first prize by being the Caldecott Medal winner in 1985. The Stranger was published in 1986, and The Z Was Zapped was published in 1987. Two Bad Ants was published in 1988. The Wretched Stone was published in 1991, followed by The Widow's Broom in 1992. The Sweetest Fig was published in 1993, and The Mysteries of Harris Burdick, a special edition, was made in 1994. Bad Day at Riverbend was published in 1995. A City in Winter was published in 1996, and The Veil of Snows was published in 1997. Zathura was published in 2002. Queen of the Falls, Chris's most recent book, was published in 2011. This is actually a true story of the first woman to survive going over Niagara Falls in a barrel. Here is Chris with a sculpture of the small dog Fritz. Fritz is based off of a dog that Chris once knew. If you look closely as we read Chris vanallsburg books, you'll notice that Fritz makes an appearance in every single one of his books. We've already said Chris has actually won first prize, the Caldecott Medal, 2 times. He received the Caldecott Honor, kind of like second place, 1 time. 3 of Chris's books have been turned into movies: Zathura, Jumanji, and one everybody knows, The Polar Express. Chris says he always tries to create something strange and puzzling in each picture, even if they're pictures of just regular things. The 2 questions he asks himself when he starts writing a story is what if and what then. For example, in Jumanji, he asked himself the question, what if 2 bored children discovered a board game? What if it came to life? What then. Chris says it usually takes him about 7 months to write, illustrate, and edit his books. I hope you enjoyed learning about Chris vanallsburg and that you enjoy reading and listening to some of his books in the next couple weeks.